Welcome to Midnight Murders and Mulled Wine. I'm Alistair Hawthorne. Tonight, we savour a tale dripping with 1927 fog, Hercule Poirot and the Unveiled Conspiracy Truth. Settled in with a hot toddy, excellent, the telegram in the rain. The rain that fell on Bloomsbury in October 1927 was not the polite English drizzle of postcards. It was a deluge with malice, the sort that turned umbrellas inside out and sent newspapers flapping along gutters like wounded gulls. Gas lamps hissed and sputtered, their halos trembling in the wet. At precisely 23 minutes past 9 on a Thursday that smelled of coal smoke and impending scandal, a taxicab slewed to a halt outside number 47 Great Russell Street. Hercule Poirot stepped down, immaculate as always. His overcoat was Belgian cashmere, his gloves kid leather, his potent leather shoes gleaming despite the downpour. The rain offended him. It disturbed the perfect symmetry of his moustaches. Those magnificent crescents waxed to the rigidity of cathedral spires. Yet Hercule Poirot, former star of the Belgian police, now London's most fastidious private detective, had never allowed mere weather to deter him from a mystery. The summons had come by telephone an hour earlier, the voice on the line clipped with the terror of a man who has seen his future evaporate. "Mr. Poirot, it is Sir Reginald Harrow. I require your services tonight, no delay. The matter is delicate, life and death perhaps." Poirot had not asked questions. Men like Sir Reginald did not telephone at 8 o'clock unless the wolf was already inside the drawing room. Number 47 was a narrow Georgian townhouse, wedged between a bookseller specializing in incunabula and a discreet club whose members included 3 cabinet ministers and 1 notorious forger. A brass plaque read, "Sir Reginald Harrow, Antiquities." The door opened before Poirot's gloved finger reached the bell. A maid, starched apron, eyes red from weeping, ushered him into a hallway panelled in dark oak. Beeswax, bergamot, and something metallic lingered in the air. "Fear," Poirot diagnosed silently. "Fear has a smell, like rust." Sir Reginald awaited in the study, a tall patrician figure with the posture of a retired colonel and the eyes of a man watching his empire crumble. 62 years old, Poirot noted, yet the hair still black, Ireland's best dye, no doubt. Behind him, glass cabinets marched along the walls like soldiers, scarabs of lapis lazuli, Babylonian cylinder seals, a gold funerary mask that grinned with the insolence of 3,000 years. But the centerpiece was an empty velvet plinth shaped like a heart. "Mr. Poirot." Sir Reginald's handshake was dry, desperate. "Thank you. I dare not trust Scotland Yard, not yet." He locked the study door with a chub key the size of a small pistol, then produced a telegram folded so many times it had become a square of confetti. Poirot accepted it with the reverence due a scorpion. The paper was damp, the ink feathering like blood in water. "Midnight. The heart of Amun-Ra will be stolen. No lock can stop us. Veritas," Poirot murmured, savouring the Latin. "Truth. A curious nom de guerre for a thief." Sir Reginald's laugh was brittle. "The heart of Amun-Ra is a ruby the size of a pigeon's egg, cut for Pharaoh Amenhotep III's funeral barge in 1350 BC. Flawless, blood-red, cursed, naturally. Valued at £50,000. Tomorrow it travels by Orient Express to Vienna for exhibition at the Kunsthistorisches. Tonight it rests here, in a vault no man has ever breached." He pressed a panel disguised as a row of leather-bound folios. The bookcase swung inward with a sigh, revealing a steel door worthy of the Bank of England. A single keyhole, a combination dial of 12 letters, and a small brass plate engraved Harrow and Daughter, patent 1925. "Only 2 living souls know the full combination," Sir Reginald said. "Myself and my niece Lavinia. She designed the cipher." As if summoned by her name, the door opened again. Miss Lavinia Harrow entered in a rustle of emerald silk that cost more than most men earned in a year. 26, flame-haired, cheekbones sharp enough to slice paper. Her eyes were the green of Nile water at dawn, and just as treacherous. "Uncle insists on theatrics," she said, voice cut glass Mayfair. "The stone is safer than the king's own sceptre." Poirot bowed with exquisite precision. "Yet theatrics, mademoiselle, have a habit of becoming tragedy." Sir Reginald rang a small silver bell. The household assembled as though for a séance. First, Dr. Felix Carstairs, family physician. 45, thin as a stethoscope, eyes the colour of weak tea. He carried the faint scent of carbolic and desperation. Poirot noted the tremor in his left hand, laudanum or losses at the tables. Next, Mrs. Beatrice Grimshaw, housekeeper these 30 years. 58, lips pursed like a Victorian corset. Her chatelaine jingled with keys that could open every door in the house, except, Poirot suspected, the one to her heart. Captain Hugh Drummond, late of the Guards, followed. 33, sun-browned moustache waxed to rival Poirot's own. He moved with the lazy confidence of a man who had killed in 3 continents and considered it good form. Last, Mr. Enoch Vale, junior curator at the British Museum. 29, spectacles perpetually fogged. Adam's apple bobbing like a cork in a storm. He clutched a leather document case as though it contained the Elgin marbles. 6 souls, 1 ruby, 1 threat signed Veritas. Sir Reginald led them to the vault. "We open it together, transparency, eh?" Miss Lavinia spun the dial with manicured fingers. AMUNRAHEART. 12 letters, 12 soft clicks. The door swung open on silent hinges. Inside, on a cushion of black velvet, lay the heart of Amun-Ra. Poirot had seen many jewels, but this one stopped even his breath. It was not red. It was the memory of blood, the colour of arterial spray in moonlight. Facets caught the gaslight and threw it back as accusations. A pigeon's egg? No, larger. A dove's heart, perhaps, torn still beating from the chest of a god. "Magnifique," Poirot whispered. He leaned closer. Beneath the scent of velvet, something else. Bitter almonds? No, imagination. Sir Reginald lifted the ruby with reverent fingers. "Tomorrow it will be sealed in an iron strongbox, chained in the baggage van of the Orient Express. 2 railway constables will guard it. Yet this telegram—" Captain Drummond snorted. "Stuff and nonsense. Probably some anarchist crank." Dr. Carstairs cleared his throat. "Or a competitor. The Vienna Museum has been covetous for years." Mr. Vale flushed crimson. "The Kunsthistorisches is a respectable institution." Mrs. Grimshaw's lips thinned further. "Respectable folk don't send threats at midnight." Miss Lavinia laughed, but it rang hollow. "Let them try. The combination is poetic. Only Uncle and I know the final twist. The dial has 12 letters, but the 12th click is hidden beneath a false panel. You must turn past the T and feel for the secret notch." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "And this secret, mademoiselle? It is written nowhere." "Nowhere," she said firmly, too firmly. Sir Reginald replaced the ruby, closed the vault, spun the dial to 0. He locked the chub with his key. Poirot noted the time. 10:17 precisely on the ormolu clock above the mantel. Dinner followed in the dining room, a tense affair beneath a crystal chandelier that dripped light like melting icicles. The table was mahogany, the linen Irish, the conversation barbed wire. Captain Drummond drank too much claret and spoke of debts at White's. Dr. Carstairs prescribed himself another brandy for his nerves. Mr. Vale sketched hieroglyphs on the tablecloth and muttered about continental acquisitiveness. Mrs. Grimshaw served roast beef with the solemnity of a priestess offering sacrifice. Miss Lavinia toyed with her food, emerald dress shimmering each time the chandelier swayed in the draught. Poirot observed everything. He noted how Sir Reginald's hand lingered near the chub key in his waistcoat pocket, how Miss Lavinia's sealing wax, crimson, scented with the tar of roses, sat beside her plate for addressing thank-you notes, how Mr. Vale's document case never left his side, how Mrs. Grimshaw's pocket watch, when she consulted it to serve pudding, had stopped at exactly 10:17. Stopped. Poirot filed that away. At 11:05, coffee was served in the study. The chandelier flickered. Gas pressure or something else. One of the crystal drops seemed newer than the rest, wrapped in crimson silk to mimic a decorative bauble. Poirot's gaze lingered. Sir Reginald raised his cup. To the heart of Amun-Ra. May it reach Vienna unscathed. Glasses clinked. Outside, thunder rolled like artillery on the Somme. At 11:47, Poirot took his leave. Sir Reginald saw him to the door. "You will accompany us tomorrow?" the baronet asked. "Victoria Station, 7:45 sharp." "Naturellement," Poirot replied. "I would not miss the Orient Express for all the tea in China." As the taxicab splashed away, Poirot glanced back. In an upstairs window, a silhouette watched. Miss Lavinia? Or another? The rain had eased to a mist. London slept uneasily, dreaming of empires lost and treasures stolen. Poirot leaned back against the leather seat. "Veritas," he murmured. "Truth. But whose truth, mon Dieu? Whose?" Little did he know that by dawn, the heart of Amun-Ra would vanish impossibly, completely, eternally, between a locked vault in Bloomsbury and a guarded baggage van in Victoria Station, and that the chandelier in the study held a secret far older than electricity. The vanished heart dawn over Victoria Station was never gentle. It arrived in a belch of soot and steam, the colour of a smoker's lung. The great glass roof arched like the rib-cage of some prehistoric beast, trapping the clamour of porters, the shriek of whistles, the mournful lowing of engines impatient to be gone. Milk cans clattered. Newsboys hawked the Morning Post. A brass band from the Salvation Army played "Nearer, My God, to Thee" with more enthusiasm than harmony. At precisely 7:41 a.m., Hercule Poirot stepped from a taxicab onto the concourse. His overcoat was buttoned to the throat, his Homburg tilted at the regulation angle, his cane tapping a measured rhythm against the wet flagstones. The rain of the previous night had left puddles that reflected the station's electric lights in fractured halos. Poirot disliked puddles. They offended the mirror finish of his shoes. Sir Reginald Harrow awaited beside platform 2, flanked by Miss Lavinia and Captain Drummond. The baronet's face was the colour of old parchment. The niece's lips pressed into a bloodless line, the captain's moustache bristling with barely contained fury. A porter wrestled with a cabin trunk labelled "Vienna, fragile." Another wheeled a squat iron strongbox on a trolley. Its padlocks glinted like malevolent eyes. Inspector Japp of Scotland Yard detached himself from a knot of constables. His mackintosh dripped onto the platform. His expression suggested he had been dragged from a warm bed and a colder breakfast. "Morning, Poirot," he growled. "Your aristocratic friend here says the world's most expensive pebble has gone walkabout. Care to enlighten me before I lose my temper?" Poirot's smile was a scalpel. "Patience, mon ami. First, we establish the impossible." The Simplon Orient Express stood ready. A serpent of blue and gold livery, 30 wagons long, sleeping cars, dining cars, a club car with piano, a baggage van at the rear. Porters in pillbox hats swarmed like ants. Somewhere in the distance, A locomotive exhaled a sigh that sounded almost human. Sir Reginald led the way to the baggage van. 2 railway constables, Constable Hargreaves and Constable Pettigrew, stood guard, rifles slung, faces stiff with the knowledge that their careers hung by a thread. "Loaded at 6:12 a.m., sir," Hargreaves reported. "Sealed in Bloomsbury last night, 10:17 p.m. Chain locked to the floor since Calais. No one in or out." The strongbox was a cube of black iron, 18 inches to a side, weight 42 pounds exactly. 4 padlocks, each sealed with red wax impressed Harrow. A brass plate read, "Property of Sir R. Harrow. Handle with extreme care." The chain was intact, the floor beneath unmarked. Sir Reginald produced the Chubb key from his waistcoat. Miss Lavinia stepped forward, emerald coat swirling, and spun the combination dial with the precision of a safecracker in a music hall act. 11 clicks, then the secret 12th. Her thumb found the hidden notch beneath the final T and pressed. A soft snick. The door swung open on oiled hinges. The velvet cushion inside was pristine. The heart of Amun-Ra was gone. For a moment, silence reigned louder than the station's din. Even the Salvation Army band seemed to falter mid-chorus. Poirot leaned in. The cushion bore a faint depression, the ghost of the ruby's weight. No scratches, no tool marks, only a scent, faint, acrid, like crushed almonds left too long in a jar. Japp swore under his breath. "Cyanide." "Prussic acid, perhaps," Poirot murmured. "But for what purpose? To kill a jewel?" Sir Reginald's hand flew to his heart. £50,000. The exhibition. My reputation. Miss Lavinia's voice cut like a shard of glass. The telegram was right. Veritas. Captain Drummond slammed a fist into the strongbox. The clang echoed through the van like a death knell. "Someone on this train is the thief. We search every compartment, every trunk, every—" "No," Poirot interrupted softly. "First, we establish the when. The strongbox left Bloomsbury at 5:47 a.m. in a sealed van driven by Mr. Enoch Vale. It arrived here at 6:12, guarded continuously. The Orient Express has not yet departed. Therefore, the crime occurred between Bloomsbury and Victoria." He turned to the constables. "You loaded it personally?" Hargreaves nodded. "Mr. Vale handed it over. We chained it ourselves." "And the weight?" 42 pounds on the nose, sir. Same as the manifest." Poirot's eyes gleamed. Identical weight, yet the ruby, how heavy! Sir Reginald swallowed. 4 ounces troy. The cushion, the box, everything calibrated, so the total remains 42 pounds, whether the stone is present or not. "Clever," Poirot said. "A balance designed for deception." Japp scratched his chin. So, either the ruby was never inside, or it was removed after loading and replaced with, what? Lidshot. Or, Poirot said, the strongbox itself is not the one that left Bloomsbury. He knelt, examining the base. A hairline scratch near the left, hinge, barely visible, but there. He produced a pocket lens. The scratch was fresh, the metal beneath bright. "Regardez," he said, "this strongbox has travelled. The original, I suspect, remains in Great Russell Street." Sir Reginald went the colour of chalk. "Impossible! I locked it myself." Yet locks, mon cher, are only as honest as the hands that turn them. The station clock struck 8. The Orient Express gave a preliminary shudder, as though eager to be gone. Porters shouted, "All aboard!" Passengers streamed past. Diplomats in astrakhan, dowagers dripping pearls, a Maharaja with a pet cheetah on a leash. Poirot straightened. "We have 20 minutes before departure. Inspector, secure the baggage van. No one touches this box. Sir Reginald, You will accompany me to Bloomsbury immediately. Mademoiselle Lavinia, Captain Drummond, you will remain here under Japp's watchful eye." Lavinia's eyes flashed. "You suspect us?" "I suspect time," Poirot replied. "And time, mademoiselle, is the one thief no lock can stop." A taxicab was summoned. Poirot and Sir Reginald climbed in, the baronet clutching his Homburg like a lifebelt. As they pulled away, Poirot glanced back. Through the station's arch, the Orient Express gleamed like a promise or a trap. The journey to Bloomsbury took 27 minutes in heavy traffic. Sir Reginald stared out the window, muttering figures, debts, insurance, the price of ruin. Poirot studied the Chubb key on its gold chain. It was warm from the baronet's skin. Number 47. Great Russell Street looked smaller in daylight. Its Georgian facade soot-streaked, the brass plaque dulled. Mrs. Grimshaw opened the door, apron crisp, eyes red-rimmed. "Sir Reginald! The police telephoned." "Later, Beatrice," he snapped. "The vault." They descended to the study. The bookcase stood ajar. The vault door was closed, dial at 0, but the Chubb lock, Poirot's heart skipped a beat, was unlocked. The key still dangled in the keyhole. Sir Reginald froze. "I locked it, I swear." Poirot pushed the door. It swung open silently. Inside, an identical strongbox. Identical padlocks, identical seals, except one wax seal was cracked, the impression smudged. The weight, when Poirot lifted it, was 42 pounds. He opened it with Sir Reginald's key and Lavinia's combination. Inside, a plaster replica of the heart of Amun-Ra, painted a garish crimson. The cushion smelled faintly of bitter almonds. Sir Reginald sank into a chair. "My God, they swapped them before we left the house." Poirot examined the vault floor. A single drop of crimson wax, rose-scented, had hardened into a tiny ruby of its own. He scraped it into an envelope. "Someone took an impression of your key," he said, "while you slept, perhaps, or while you dined." Mrs. Grimshaw hovered in the doorway. "I lock the house at 11, sir. No one in or out." Poirot's gaze fell on the mantel. Clock. It read 9:03. But the ormolu clock in the hallway, visible through the open door, read 8:57. 6 minutes fast, he murmured. "Or the hallway clock is slow. Tell me, madame, which is correct?" Mrs. Grimshaw flushed. "The study clock, sir. I set it myself." Poirot smiled. Then the house was locked at 10:54, not 11. A small discrepancy, but enough. He turned to Sir Reginald. The duplicate strongbox was substituted after 10:17 p.m., but before 5:47 a.m. Who had access? "Only the household," Sir Reginald whispered, "and Mr. Vale, who collected the box at dawn." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Then we return to Victoria. The Orient Express waits for no man, except, perhaps, a murderer." Outside, a church bell tolled 9. In the distance, a train whistle answered, mournful, impatient, hungry. The game, Poirot thought, was well and truly afoot. Poirot commandeered the salon car. Lalique lamps, marquetry panels, the air thick with Turkish tobacco and panic. He arranged 6 chairs in a semicircle. "Mesdames et messieurs, the strongbox was sealed in Bloomsbury at 10:17 p.m., loaded at 6:12 a.m., guarded continuously." Yet the ruby vanished without trace. Let us examine alibis via your own handwritten statements. Handwriting is, after all, the mirror of the soul. They wrote on Orient Express stationery. Poirot collected the pages with a smile. Sir Reginald, Mayfair Flat butler until 2 a.m. Miss Lavinia, Ritz with debutante friend until 12:07 a.m. Taxi receipt. Captain Drummond, billiards at Guards Club until 2:30 a.m. Dr. Carstairs, emergency call in Chelsea, hospital log, 11:15 p.m. 6:30 a.m. Mrs. Grimshaw, locked house at 11 p.m. attic room. Mr. Vale, British Museum until 1:15 a.m. Night porter, all airtight. Yet Poirot noticed Miss Lavinia's looping capital L's matched the flourish on a crimson wax fragment in his pocket. Mrs. Grimshaw's statement claimed 11 p.m. lockup, but her stopped watch read 10:17, and Mr. Vale's handwriting trembled on the word Vienna. The train thundered toward Dover. Suspicion thickened like pea-soup fog. A frantic return to Bloomsbury. The vault stood open. Someone had used a duplicate key. Inside, an identical strongbox bearing a hairline scratch. Within, a plaster replica painted crimson, compartments and alibis. The Simplon Orient Express had slipped its leash at Victoria and was now thundering southeast through the Kentish orchards. Silver birches flashing past like white lies. Inside the salon car, the air was thick with Turkish tobacco, bergamot, and the sharper tang of fear. Poirot had drawn the velvet curtains against the morning glare and arranged 6 chairs in a precise semicircle, like a tribunal of fate. "Mesdames et messieurs," he began, voice soft yet carrying to the mahogany rafters, "we have a crime without a corpse, a theft without a breach. A ruby vanished between 2 locked doors and a guarded chain. Let us begin with the simplest of tools, your own hands." He distributed sheets of Orient Express stationery, thick cream stock, embossed with the golden crest, and silver fountain pens. "Write, if you please, where you were between 10:17 last night and 6:12 this morning. Be precise. Handwriting, after all, is the mirror of the soul." They wrote in silence, broken only by the rhythmic clack of wheels on steel and the occasional cough of the locomotive. Poirot collected the pages with the reverence of a priest gathering confessions. Sir Reginald first, retired to my Mayfair flat at 10:30. Butler Carraway served brandy until 2 a.m. Signed the club book. Bed by 2:15. The script was spidery, aristocratic, the ink a regal blue. Miss Lavinia next. Dined at the Ritz with Miss Clarissa Beaumont. Left at 11:58. Taxicab receipt time 12:07 a.m. Home by 12:30. Slept until 6. Her hand flowed in elegant loops, the capital L's curling like vines. The paper carried a faint trace of attar of roses, her sealing wax. Captain Drummond's was blunt, military. Billiards at the Guards Club. Signed in 8:45 p.m., out 2:30 a.m., witnessed by Major Fortescue and Colonel Blaine. The pen had dug furrows into the paper, as though anger had guided the nib. Dr. Carstairs wrote in a hurried scrawl, "Emergency call, Mrs. Aldridge, Chelsea. Arrived hospital 11:15 p.m. Remained until 6:30 a.m. Log stamped." A blot of ink near the signature. Nerves or laudanum? Mrs. Grimshaw's hand was copperplate. 30 years of ledgers. Locked Bloomsbury House at 11 p.m. sharp. Retired to attic room. No one entered or left. But Poirot's eye snagged on the pocket watch pinned to her apron. Stopped at 10:17. Mr. Vale's script trembled. Worked late at British Museum. Night porter Mr. Digby saw me leave 1:15 a.m., walked home via Russell Square. The word Vienna was underlined 3 times, the ink pooling like blood. Poirot laid the statements side by side on the baize table. The train lurched, a Lalique lamp swayed, scattering prisms across the pages. "Alibis," he said, "like passports, all stamped, all seemingly valid. Yet passports can be forged." He produced the crimson wax fragment from Bloomsbury, rose-scented Lavinia's. "Regardez the flourish on Mademoiselle's L's. Identical to the seal on this wax. Someone used her stationery to take an impression of the Chubb key." Lavinia's teacup rattled. "My wax is kept in my boudoir, locked." "Yet locks, mademoiselle, are only as faithful as the fingers that turn them." Poirot turned to Mrs. Grimshaw. "Madam, Your watch stopped at 10:17, the exact moment Sir Reginald locked the vault. Coincidence? Mrs. Grimshaw's lips thinned to a thread. It needs winding. Or was stopped deliberately to create confusion. A 17-minute ghost window between the real lockup and your stated 11 o'clock. Captain Drummond leapt up. This is absurd. We're all under suspicion while the real thief is among us, Poirot finished. And the train, mon capitaine, is the perfect locked room. No stops until Dover. No escape. He tapped Mr. Vale's statement. You, monsieur, collected the strong box at 5:47 a.m. Yet the night porter saw you leave the museum at 1:15, 4 hours unaccounted. Where were you? Vale flushed crimson. Walking, thinking. The streets were empty. Empty enough to forge a key from wax? To swap strong boxes under cover of darkness? Japp, who had been silent in the corner, cleared his throat. The baggage manifest lists one crate marked Egyptian Fragile, 42 lbs. But the railway ledger shows 2 crates of identical weight loaded at 5:55 a.m. One by Mr. Vale, one by an unknown party in a porter's cap. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Then the duplicate was introduced at the station, not the house, but the ruby. Where is it now? He glanced at the chandelier overhead. Crystal drops shivering with the train's motion. One drop, newer than the rest, wrapped in crimson silk to mimic decoration. It caught the light like a drop of blood. Perhaps, Poirot murmured, the heart never left Bloomsbury at all. The train plunged into a tunnel. Darkness swallowed the salon. When the lights flickered back, every face was a study in guilt, innocence, and the grey area between. Outside, the Kentish countryside blurred into watercolour. Inside, the little grey cells began their meticulous dance. The duplicate strongbox. The Orient Express had crossed the Channel on the night ferry, and was now slicing through northern France, vineyards flashing past like green ticker tape. Poirot, however, had commandeered a telephone at Calais and ordered the train held for 1 hour. A motorcar, black Daimler Scotland Yard plates, raced them back to London under a sky the colour of wet slate. Number 47. Great Russell Street greeted them with the hush of a mausoleum. Mrs. Grimshaw opened the door, eyes swollen, chatelaine silent. The study smelled of cold wax and yesterday's fear. Poirot went straight to the vault. The steel door stood ajar. The combination dial spun to 0. Inside, the iron strongbox, identical twin to the one now chained in the baggage van, waited like a patient corpse. Sir Reginald's hand shook as he produced the chub key. The lock turned with a reluctant click. The lid lifted. On black velvet lay a plaster heart painted lurid crimson. A label in Mr. Vale's spidery hand read, Replica, property of British Museum. The weight, when Poirot hefted it, was £42 to the ounce. Mon Dieu, Sir Reginald whispered, they swapped them under my very nose. Poirot knelt. The strongbox bore a hairline scratch near the left hinge, bright metal showing, fresh as a paper cut. He produced his pocket lens. This scratch was not present last night. Regardez, the duplicate was damaged in transit, perhaps when loaded at Bloomsbury at 5:47 a.m. The original, pristine, now travels to Vienna with a plaster heart. He turned to the vault floor. A single drop of crimson wax had hardened into a tiny ruby of its own, rose-scented, Lavinia's. Someone took an impression of your key, Poirot told Sir Reginald. While you dined, perhaps, or while you slept. Mrs. Grimshaw hovered. I locked the house at 11, sir. No one. Poirot held up the stopped watch from her apron pocket. Stopped at 10:17, the exact moment the vault was sealed. A 17-minute discrepancy, Enough time to open, swap, relock. He examined the Chubb lock under a green banker's lamp. A faint ring of wax clung to the keyhole, like a secret kiss. He scraped it into an envelope. Japp arrived breathless. The railway ledger confirms 2 crates of £42 loaded at Victoria. One signed by Mr. Vale, one by a porter who vanished after tipping his cap. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Then the swap occurred between house and station. But the ruby, where is it now? He glanced up. The chandelier above the desk, Waterford crystal, gas converted to electric, shivered in the draught. One drop, newer than the rest, was wrapped in crimson silk to mimic decoration. It caught the light like a drop of blood. Perhaps, Poirot murmured, the heart never left this room. He fetched a library stool, climbed, and gently unwrapped the silk. The real ruby, blood-red, flawless, nestled inside like a sleeping ember. Sir Reginald gasped. "All this, for nothing?" "No," Poirot said, descending, "for everything." The duplicate strongbox was bait, the Vienna exhibition a smokescreen. The true crime was to sell the ruby privately while claiming insurance on a stolen replica. He turned to Mrs. Grimshaw. "You stopped your watch to create confusion. Dr. Carstairs provided a draft for Sir Reginald's port, hence the almond trace in the baggage van. Captain Drummond sent the Veritas telegram from Charing Cross. Mr. Vale forged the manifest. Miss Lavinia's wax sealed the key impression." Mrs. Grimshaw sank to her knees. 30 years, for a pension and a lie. Poirot's voice softened. "Greed is the oldest motive, madame, but truth, veritas, always catches the train." Outside, the Daimler's horn sounded. The Orient Express waited at Calais, its baggage van now holding only plaster and pride. The crimson wax snow began to fall as the Orient Express climbed into the Austrian Alps, thick flakes swirling against the windows like torn confetti. In the dining car, crystal gleamed under electric chandeliers, and a string quartet soared through a languid waltz. The suspects sat rigid, napkins clutched like white flags. Poirot stood at the head of the table, the heart of Amun-Ra cradled in a black velvet cloth. Its facets caught the light and flung it back as accusations. "Mesdames et messieurs," he began, voice soft yet carrying over the clink of silver, "we have chased shadows across 3 countries. It is time to pin them to the wall." He placed the ruby beside a single drop of crimson wax. Rose-scented Lavinia's. "Mademoiselle, your sealing wax did more than close letters." At 10:17 p.m., while Sir Reginald locked the vault, someone pressed this wax against the Chubb key. The impression was taken in the study, under the chandelier where the real ruby already hung disguised as a crystal drop. Lavinia's teacup rattled. "My wax is kept in my boudoir, which shares a wall with the study," Poirot interrupted. "A panel slides. Mrs. Grimshaw discovered it years ago while dusting. She used it to enter after Sir Reginald retired, drugged by Dr. Carstairs' port, laced with amygdalin, hence the almond trace in the baggage van." Dr. Carstairs half rose. "I prescribed a sedative for insomnia that arrived only last night," Poirot said. Captain Drummond sent the Veritas telegram from Charing Cross at 8:02 p.m., establishing an external threat. Mr. Vale forged the railway manifest to include a duplicate crate. Mrs. Grimshaw stopped her watch at 10:17 to create a 17-minute ghost window, enough to swap strongboxes and hide the ruby in the chandelier. He turned to Sir Reginald. "You, mon ami, orchestrated the symphony. The estate bankrupt, debts at White's, the ruby your last asset. You planned to claim insurance on a stolen replica, while selling the real stone to Dr. Heinrich Vogel, Veritas, at the Kunsthistorisches for $75,000. Sir Reginald's shoulders sagged. "The Harrow name, 3 centuries. Will survive," Poirot said gently, "if truth is served." He lifted the ruby. "This never left Bloomsbury. The strongbox on the train held plaster and pride. The exhibition will proceed with the replica. Vogel will be arrested at the border, the insurance claim voided." Lavinia wept silently. Drummond stared at the tablecloth. Vale's spectacles fogged. Mrs. Grimshaw's lips trembled. Dr. Carstairs reached for a brandy that was no longer there. Poirot's voice softened. "Greed is a poor conductor, mes amis. It derails even the finest engines." Outside, the Alps rose like white cathedrals. Inside, the conspiracy lay exposed, glittering like the ruby in Poirot's hand. The crime discovered Sir Reginald's laugh was brittle. The heart of Amun-Ra is a ruby the size of a pigeon's egg, cut for Pharaoh Amenhotep III's funeral barge in 1350 BC. Flawless, blood-red, cursed, naturally. Valued at £50,000. Tomorrow it travels by Orient Express to Vienna for exhibition at the Kunsthistorisches. Tonight it rests here, in a vault no man has ever breached. He pressed a panel disguised as a row of leather-bound folios. The bookcase swung inward with a sigh, revealing a steel door worthy of the Bank of England. A single keyhole, a combination dial of 12 letters, and a small brass plate engraved, "Harrow and Daughter, patent 1925. Only 2 living souls know the full combination," Sir Reginald said. "Myself and my niece, Lavinia. She designed the cipher." As if summoned by her name, the door opened again. Miss Lavinia Harrow entered in a rustle of emerald silk that cost more than most men earned in a year. 26 flame-haired, cheekbones sharp enough to slice paper. Her eyes were the green of Nile water at dawn, and just as treacherous. "Uncle insists on theatrics," she said, voice cut-glass Mayfair. "The stone is safer than the king's own sceptre." Poirot bowed with exquisite precision. "Yet theatrics, mademoiselle, have a habit of becoming tragedy." Sir Reginald rang a small silver bell. The household assembled as though for a séance. First, Dr. Felix Carstairs, family physician. 45, thin as a stethoscope, eyes the colour of weak tea. He carried the faint scent of carbolic and desperation. Poirot noted the tremor in his left hand. Laudanum or losses at the tables. Next, Mrs. Beatrice Grimshaw, housekeeper these 30 years. 58, lips pursed like a Victorian corset. Her chatelaine jingled with keys that could open every door in the house except, Poirot suspected, the one to her heart. Captain Hugh Drummond, late of the Guards, followed. 33, sun-browned, moustache waxed to rival Poirot's own. He moved with the lazy confidence of a man who had killed in 3 continents and considered it good form. Last, Mr. Enoch Vale, junior curator at the British Museum. 29, spectacles perpetually fogged, Adam's apple bobbing like a cork in a storm. He clutched a leather document case as though it contained the Elgin marbles. 6 souls, 1 ruby, 1 threat signed Veritas. Sir Reginald led them to the vault. "We open it together. Transparency, eh?" Miss Lavinia spun the dial with manicured fingers. AMUNRAHEART. 12 letters, 12 soft clicks. The door swung open on silent hinges. Inside, on a cushion of black velvet, lay the heart of Amun-Ra. Poirot had seen many jewels, but this one stopped even his breath. It was not red. It was the memory of blood, the colour of arterial spray in moonlight. Facets caught the gaslight and threw it back as accusations. A pigeon's egg? No, larger. A dove's heart, perhaps, torn still beating from the chest of a god. "Magnifique," Poirot whispered. He leaned closer, Beneath the scent of velvet, something else. Bitter almonds? No, imagination. Sir Reginald lifted the ruby with reverent fingers. Tomorrow it will be sealed in an iron strongbox, chained in the baggage van of the Orient Express. 2 railway constables will guard it. Yet this telegram, Captain Drummond snorted. Stuff and nonsense. Probably some anarchist crank. Dr. Carstairs cleared his throat. Or a competitor. The Vienna Museum has been covetous for years. Mr. Vale flushed crimson. The Kunsthistorisches is a respectable institution. Mrs. Grimshaw's lips thinned further. Respectable folk don't send threats at midnight. Miss Lavinia laughed, but it rang hollow. Let them try. The combination is poetic. Only Uncle and I know the final twist. The dial has 12 letters, but the 12th click is hidden beneath a false panel. You must turn past the T and feel for the secret notch. Poirot's eyes narrowed. And this secret, mademoiselle, it is written nowhere. Nowhere, she said firmly, too firmly. Sir Reginald replaced the ruby, closed the vault, spun the dial to 0. He locked the chub with his key. Poirot noted the time. 10:17 precisely on the ormolu clock above the mantel. Dinner followed in the dining room, a tense affair beneath a crystal chandelier that dripped light like melting icicles. The table was mahogany, the linen Irish, the conversation barbed wire. Captain Drummond drank too much claret and spoke of debts at White's. Dr. Carstairs prescribed himself another brandy for his nerves. Mr. Vale sketched hieroglyphs on the tablecloth and muttered about continental acquisitiveness. Mrs. Grimshaw served roast beef with the solemnity of a priestess offering sacrifice. Miss Lavinia toyed with her food, emerald dress shimmering each time the chandelier swayed in the draught. Poirot observed everything. The stopped watch. The train had slowed to a dignified crawl through the Arlberg Pass, snow muffling the wheels to a whisper. In the dining car, the string quartet had packed away their instruments. Only the low clink of coffee cups and the occasional sob broke the hush. Poirot stood at the head of the table, the heart of Amun-Ra glowing like a coal in his palm. He placed beside it Mrs. Grimshaw's pocket watch. Silver, dented, hands frozen at 10:17. Madam, he said gently, this watch is the pivot on which the entire conspiracy turned. You stopped it deliberately the moment Sir Reginald locked the vault. Why? Mrs. Grimshaw's lips trembled. 30 years of service had etched lines around her mouth like parentheses around a secret. She looked at Sir Reginald, then at the ruby, then at the snow beyond the window. I had no choice, she whispered. The estate, the pensions, my own pittance. Sir Reginald said it was only a loan against the insurance. The ruby would come back once the money was paid. Poirot nodded. A 17-minute ghost window. At 10:17 the vault is sealed. At 10:34, when the study clock, 6 minutes fast, reads 10:40, you re-enter through the sliding panel. Dr. Carstairs' draft has done its work. Sir Reginald sleeps like a pharaoh. You open the vault with the wax impression, swap the strong boxes, hide the real ruby in the chandelier drop, wrapped in Miss Lavinia's silk hem, torn earlier under pretext of a loose thread. By 10:51, you are back in the kitchen. Watch restarted, house locked at the official 11. Mrs. Grimshaw's voice cracked. I wound it forward to 11, but the mechanism jammed. I thought no one would notice. Poirot turned the watch over. On the back, engraved in faded script, to Beatrice, on 25 years faithful service, RH 1922. The crystal was cracked. Hairline, recent. This crack, he said, occurred when you stopped the watch too forcefully. The jam preserved your lie, and exposed it. He looked at Dr. Carstairs. Your amygdalin scented the duplicate strongbox to suggest poison, a false trail. Captain Drummond's telegram created the external threat. Mr. Vale's manifest introduced the second crate. Miss Lavinia's wax sealed the key impression taken while she slept, unaware her boudoir panel was known. Lavinia lifted her head, eyes red. I knew nothing until the Ritz receipt was demanded. Then I understood I was the perfect alibi. Out, visible, innocent. Sir Reginald spoke at last, voice hollow. The debts were $42,000. The ruby would fetch $75,000 in Vienna. Insurance would cover the rest. A new start. Poirot's gaze softened. But truth, mon ami, is not for sale. He wrapped the ruby in velvet. Mrs. Grimshaw, you will retire with a pension. Honest this time. Dr. Carstairs, your license is suspended pending inquiry. Captain Drummond, face your creditors like a soldier. Mr. Vale, the museum will decide your fate. Miss Lavinia, Cairo, a scholarship in Egyptology. Begin again among the honest dead. Outside, the train emerged from a tunnel into blinding alpine sunlight. The ruby caught the glare and threw it back as a promise, or a warning. The Vienna connection. The Orient Express had crested the Arlberg and was now descending toward Innsbruck, the mountains falling away like a curtain at the end of a tragic opera. In the salon car, the air was thick with the scent of pine from the open windows and the sharper tang of confession. Poirot stood before a small portable telegraph set Japp had wired to the train's communication line. A fresh telegram, sent from Vienna at 14:07, lay decoded on the baize table. He read it aloud, voice calm as a priest at vespers. Veritas to Harrow. Hart must arrive tonight. Annex prepared. Vogel. Mr. Vale's spectacles slipped to the tip of his nose. Dr. Heinrich Vogel, he whispered, curator of the Kunsthistorisches Annex. He approached me 6 months ago. Said the ruby belonged in a museum, not a private vault. Offered $75,000. Cash, no questions. Poirot tapped the telegram. Sent from the Annex post office. Vogel expected the real ruby, hidden in a hollowed Amana relief. Your specialty, monsieur. The insurance claim was the smoke screen, the exhibition, the perfect cover. While the world mourned a stolen replica, the true heart would vanish into state collections, laundered as a donation. Vale's hands shook. I forged the manifest to include the duplicate crate. I was to meet Vogel at the Westbahnhof with the relief, but the ruby, it never left London. Precisely, Poirot said, because Mrs. Grimshaw's stopped watch created the ghost window, and the chandelier drop was the true hiding place. You, monsieur, were the courier who never carried the cargo. He turned to Sir Reginald. Your debts, 42,000, were the seed. Vogel's offer the fertilizer. The Veritas telegram, sent by Captain Drummond from Charing Cross, was the flourish. Dr. Carstairs' draft ensured silence. Miss Lavinia's wax sealed the key. Mrs. Grimshaw's loyalty sealed the plan. Sir Reginald's voice was ash. The estate was crumbling. The ruby was all that remained of 3 centuries. Vogel promised anonymity, a new life in Tangier. Poirot produced a second telegram, this one from Scotland Yard's Vienna liaison. Vogel arrested Westbahnhof, 1542. Hollow relief seized. Confesses full conspiracy. Japp grinned. Austrian police were waiting. The annex is being searched. Vogel sang like a canary. Names, dates, the 75 Tharstalls in numbered accounts. Poirot folded the telegram with care. The Vienna connection is severed. The ruby returns to Bloomsbury. The replica will star in the exhibition, Honesty in Plaster. He looked at Vale. You, monsieur, will testify. The museum may yet keep you if you return the $5,000 advance Vogel wired. Vale nodded, tears fogging his lenses. I thought I was saving the stone for posterity." "Posterity," Poirot said softly, "prefers truth to theft." Outside, Innsbruck station appeared through the snow, a toy town of gingerbread roofs. The train slowed, brakes sighing like a repentant sinner. The Unveiled Conspiracy. The train had come to a full stop at Innsbruck, its engines ticking as they cooled in the alpine dusk. Snow drifted across the platform like ash from a dying fire. Austrian gendarmes in green greatcoats stood in a semicircle, rifles slung, faces carved from the same granite as the mountains. Inspector Japp had wired ahead. The trap was sprung. Poirot gathered the household in the salon car one final time. The chandelier overhead, now rubyless, swayed gently, its crystal drops chiming like distant bells. On the baize table lay the evidence, the stopped watch, the crimson wax drop, the plaster replica, the Vienna telegrams, the hollowed Amana relief, seized from Mr. Vale's luggage. And at the centre, the heart of Amun-Ra, wrapped in black velvet. "Mesdames et messieurs," Poirot began, voice low, "the conspiracy is unveiled. Let us walk the thread from beginning to end, so no shadow remains." He lifted the watch. "Mrs. Grimshaw stops this at 10:17, the exact moment Sir Reginald locks the vault. The study clock runs 6 minutes fast, the kitchen clock true. She creates a 17-minute ghost window. At 10:34, she slips through the sliding panel behind the bookcase, opens the vault with a key moulded from Miss Lavinia's crimson sealing wax, taken while Lavinia dined at the Ritz, swaps the strong boxes, and hides the real ruby inside the newest chandelier, drop, wrapped in silk torn from Lavinia's emerald hem under cover of a loose thread. By 10:51, she is back in the kitchen, watch restarted, jammed, but no matter. The house is locked at 11. Mrs. Grimshaw's head bowed. I thought it harmless, alone against the insurance. Poirot turned to Dr. Carstairs. You lace Sir Reginald's port with amygdalin, bitter almonds, to ensure deep sleep. The scent lingers in the duplicate strongbox, a false trail suggesting poison. Carstairs stared at his hands. He asked for a sedative. I obliged. Captain Drummond, Poirot continued, sends the Veritas telegram from Charing Cross at 8:02 p.m., establishing an external threat. Mr. Vale forges the railway manifest to include a second crate, identical weight, plaster heart inside. He plans to smuggle the real ruby to Vienna, hidden in the hollowed Amana relief, meeting Dr. Heinrich Vogel, Veritas, at the Westbahnhof for $75,000. Vale's voice cracked. The museum needed the stone. I thought, you thought wrong, Poirot said. Sir Reginald orchestrates all. The estate is bankrupt. 42,000 in debts. The ruby is the last asset. Insurance on a stolen replica would pay the creditors. The Vienna sale would fund a new life. Miss Lavinia's wax and combination knowledge are used without her consent, blackmailed over secret gambling losses at a Mayfair bridge club. Lavinia's eyes flashed. I was to be the perfect alibi. Out, visible, innocent. They used my stationery, my hem, my name. Sir Reginald spoke at last, voice hollow. 3 centuries of harrows, reduced to this. I thought the stone could save us. Poirot unwrapped the velvet. The ruby blazed, blood red, alive. It never left Bloomsbury. The strongbox on the train held only plaster and pride. The exhibition will proceed with the replica. Vogel is arrested, the 75,000 seized, the insurance claim voided. He looked at each in turn. Mrs. Grimshaw, pension and retirement. Dr. Carstairs, licence suspended. Captain Drummond, face your creditors. Mr. Vale, testify or face smuggling charges. Miss Lavinia, Cairo, a scholarship in Egyptology, funded by the ruby's legitimate sale to the British Museum. Sir Reginald, confess, and the Harrow name may yet endure. Silence fell, broken only by the soft thud of snow against the windows. Poirot raised a glass of chocolate. To truth, veritas, it always catches the train. Outside, the gendarmes led Sir Reginald away. The ruby gleamed unbloodied in Poirot's hand. Justice on the Orient Express. The Simplon Orient Express had reversed at Innsbruck and was now gliding westward through the Tyrolean valleys, the Alps receding like a verdict already rendered. Snow still fell, but softer now, more forgiveness than accusation. In the dining car, the tables had been cleared of evidence. Only a single silver tray remained, bearing a pot of chocolate, 6 cups, and the heart of Amun-Ra resting on black velvet like a sleeping monarch. Austrian gendarmes had boarded at the station, taken statements, and departed with Sir Reginald in wrist irons. The others, Mrs. Grimshaw, Dr. Carstairs, Captain Drummond, Mr. Vale, Miss Lavinia, sat in a loose circle, faces pale in the lamplight. Inspector Japp leaned against the bar, arms folded, a satisfied bulldog. Poirot poured the chocolate with ceremonial care. Steam curled like incense. "Justice," he said, handing the first cup to Mrs. Grimshaw, "is not always vengeance. Sometimes it is mercy with teeth." She took the cup with trembling fingers. 30 years, Mr. Poirot. I polished the silver, pressed the linen, buried 2 mistresses and 1 master. All for a stopped watch and a lie. Your pension is secure, Poirot replied. A modest cottage in Dorset, funded by the ruby's legitimate sale to the British Museum. You will tend roses, not secrets. Dr. Carstairs accepted his cup next. My licence? Suspended 6 months. Then a rural practice in the Hebrides. Fresh air, fewer temptations. You will prescribe honesty, along with tonics. Captain Drummond's cup clinked against the saucer. Whites will drum me out. The regiment will remember balaclava, not billiards, Poirot said. Repay Silas Grimm in instalments, sell the hunter, face the mess like a soldier. Mr. Vale clutched his cup as though it were a lifebelt. The museum will retain you as assistant curator under strict oversight. Testify against Vogel. Return the $5,000 advance. Your career survives, but your ambition is caged. Miss Lavinia's cup was last. Her eyes, red-rimmed, held the first flicker of hope. Cairo. First-class passage on the P&O Maloja, leaving Southampton in 10 days. A full scholarship at the American University, Egyptology, under Dr. Mahmoud El-Sayed. The ruby sale funds it. You will study the honest dead, mademoiselle, and leave the living lies behind. She managed a watery smile. I'll send you a postcard from the Valley of the Kings. Poirot raised his own cup. And Sir Reginald, Japp answered. Conspiracy to defraud, forgery, attempted smuggling. He'll plead guilty, quiet trial, minimum publicity. 3 years, perhaps 2 with good behaviour. The estate passes to a trust. Lavinia inherits at 30, clean title. Poirot nodded. The Harrow name endures, chastened but unbroken. He lifted the ruby. In the lamplight its facets threw scarlet constellations across the ceiling. This stone has seen pharaohs fall, empires crumble, curses whispered in torchlit tombs. It has survived because it is, above all, indifferent. We are the ones who bleed. He wrapped it in velvet and handed it to Japp. Return it to Bloomsbury. The replica travels to Vienna tomorrow. Let the world admire plaster and learn humility. The train whistle sounded, mournful across the snowfields. Outside, a village church bell answered, clear, forgiving. Mrs. Grimshaw spoke first. Will we ever ride this train again? Poirot's smile was small. Perfect, perhaps, but next time, mes amis, bring only truth in your luggage. The cups were drained. The ruby vanished into Japp's briefcase. The conspirators, now merely passengers, gazed out at the whitening world, each carrying a lighter sentence than they deserved. Poirot lingered alone as the others filed out. He adjusted his tympan, smoothed an eyebrow, and addressed the empty car. The little grey cells, they never sleep, but tonight they allow themselves a small nap. He raised an imaginary glass to the chandelier. To Veritas, caught, at last, between stations.